Okay. After we run this code, we will have this output na. Ito na yung dashboard natin. We have 4 cards here, no? In total displaying cumulative cases. We have recoveries, deaths, vaccination corresponding to the location selected, no? The data in these cards should be updated by making a new call to the API every time a new location is selected. Since the cards are identical in terms of their markup and only differ by the data they are displaying, they are an ideal candidate for component. Now, let's move on. Let's click right click on the source folder in the sidebar and select the new file. Then file summarycard.js. Then save. Then after that, we need to import these codes, no? Add the following to the summarycard.js. Like the previous components, the card component is a function that returns markup code to be rendered. However, unlike the previous component, card accepts an argument named props. The props object contains all the props passed down to the component as key value pairs. In the markup above, the title prop is rendered as a heading and the value prop is rendered as a paragraph. After that, we need to save the card .js. The component is now ready to be imported. Now, let's add a summary cards to the dashboard, no? To add the summary card to the dashboards, again, no, we need to import some libraries and codes, no? First is open the app.js and import the card component created in the last step by modifying the imports like so. This will include the import app.css, no? Declare a new state corresponding the summary card data by adding the following below existing state declaration, no? Itong mga codes natin. And finally, update natin ulit yung yung dashboard natin, no? Kasama tong div class name natin na kailangan din nating i-encode. Then the card component is called with the title and value props since no keys for summary data exist. The value props are identified the value props are undefined and will render as empty strings in the component paragraphs, no? And then we need to save the app.js and check the dashboard by reloading the existing application tab or by clicking the button below. Okay. Now, by checking, ito na yung ating dashboard. Meron na tayong cards. So, sa next page na tayo, no? Fetching summary data naman tayo. So, fetching summary data, to get the data for the summary cards, equal to the summary, endpoint is made open link to see the response. You should see a JSON object like the following. Ito yung mga ito nandito. And the endpoint above return summary information for all recorded locations. To get the summary location for a particular location, a lock parameter can can be added to the URL along with the endpoint. Then add another function to fetch summary data below, like get version by adding the code below to the app component. No? Then we need to input this code. I believe this get summary data. No? Asynchronous location. This one. Then in the function above, the data is fetched by making a call to the summary endpoint with the location parameter set to active location. The string is then formatted using uh, two local string, uh, which in this case adds commas to the hundreds and thousands position. Then finally, the summary data state is updated with the formatted data. No? Then update the use effect hook to add a get summary data as follows. This codes use effect, as you can see here. Ito, this one. Then uh, we uh, we should see the data in the summary cards, no? Change location and ensure data updates, no? Next page tayo, no? Yan. Time series data tayo. Time series data. This leaves the last section of the dashboard. The time series graph, okay? We need to open the folder app.js and modify the imports like import that app.css, no? This one. Ito yung mga in-import natin kanina. Then the first new imports the line graph component. The second new line imports additional components or utilities in graph .js used by line. So to complete the implementation of this section, we will declare a state that holds the data for the line graph. Create a new line graph component and pass data and graph options as props. Fetch data from the time series API endpoint and map. Uh, it's a format required by the line component and update the state holding data for the line graph after API call. Okay? So we need to create a new state declaration to store time series data by pasting the following existing declaration. This time series, this one. Okay. On time series. This one pala, this one. Then, uh, the initial state has datasets key as it is required by the line component. Uh, we need to paste the following source code uh, and below the user URL or base URL uh, constant declaration, no? This one, this. Then the TS options object will be passed as a prop to the line graph component, no? The component API specifies the options that can be customized for the chart along with accepted parameters. Finally, add the line graph component by updating dashboard time series div. Okay, this one, div class name. See, This one. Then try to check our output again. This one will be the output of these codes. This one. Now, let's move on to map time series. Okay. The data for the time series will be retrieved from the time series. Okay. The data from the time series will be retrieved from the time series endpoint. We just need to click the link and see the response retrieved. Okay. Uh, this one. Ito ilalabas dyan. Okay. Tapos, dito tayo. The retrieve object has keys corresponding to different time series where uh, its key stores an array of data points. The data points are objects storing information about the date, the value of the series on the day, location, and other cumulative differential data. The data can be filtered by location using the lock parameter like in summary data. In addition, another parameter called YMD will be set to true while making the API to ensure that data reference in the return data follow the set of month, and day format prepared by the line component. Now, for the data to be usable by line component, it has to be mapped into a different format. Each data series or data set should have the following structure. Meron na naman tayong lalagay na codes dito. No? Yung label, colon with name of that data set. To be, ano, hmm, ito yun. Okay? So we can see. Okay? Then, in this guide, the three datasets of interest are as follows. Label active, the uh, border, red, data point, active cases. No? Then, to map the data, a function called time series data map has to be implemented that accepts the response for time series endpoint as a argument. Map fits the relevant series into the data series format specified above and returns an array of all the map datasets. As an optional exercise, implement the time series data map function on your own. Okay, next tayo. Okay. So, need lang natin ilagay itong mga to. Fetches data from the time series, the lock active action, active location endpoint, maps the data using time series data map. Okay, mabilis lang tayo dyan. Lalagay lang natin to, itong mga to. Then, okay. Okay. So, pagtapos nating malagay na yung mga yun, lalabas na yung output natin. No? Ito na siya. Ito yung output natin. we have reached the uh, the goal. Uh, this dashboard React. Okay. Uh, and that's all for the uh, what we call this build a COVID dashboard with React. Okay. Now let's proceed to the next one. Next one is deploy a computer vision in a serverless. Okay, let's find this one. Deploy a computer version. Okay. Okay. Let's start again for the deploy a computer vision app in a serverless environment. Okay. We will be having a brief discussion while having an example. Okay. We will just follow some steps on how to create. Okay. First thing to do, we will also use a terminal and write code on a IDE. No, right? Let's click the terminal again and click new terminal to open a terminal. Then these examples are just like the previous one. So let's move to the next one. Launch an AI object detector as a serverless Python. Okay. Okay. As we see in the picture, no, the object detection web app we are building runs on a faster RCNN or region-based convolutional neutral network uh, algorithm that takes in an image and can output an image with a box around the detected object along with a confidence percentage, no? No, kung makikita natin, meron silang mga box naka-box na may green na size box ay shape box, no? Meaning na na-detect niya yung images. So we use our app to detect bicycles and it gave us an image with boxes drawn around and the bicycle it detected along with the confidence score. There are so many objects that we could try to detect from a person to a toothbrush. Okay, what is a serverless environment? Serverless has a quickly become one of the hottest topics among developers, no? But this serverless is a cloud native development model that allows developers to build and run applications without having to manage servers and other infrastructure. Uh, while there are still servers in a serverless environment, they are abstracted away from app development. A provider handles to the routine work of provisioning, maintaining, and scaling the server infrastructure. Uh, Developers only need to package their code in containers for deployment as they would in the traditional uh, cloud native development. However, instead of provisioning a Kubernetes cluster, a developer deploys a serverless infrastructure managed by the cloud provider. Once deployed, serverless apps respond to demand and automatically scale up and down as needed. Serverless offerings from public cloud providers are usually metered based on demand. No? And as a result, when a serverless function is sitting ideal, it doesn't cost anything. No? Now, let's move. What is serverless? Okay, we answered that a while ago. And the next question is why IBM Code Engine? IBM Cloud Code Engine is a unique serverless environment that, unlike many others, is designed to handle complete application and not just execute discrete functions. No, uh, IBM Code Engine will automatically scale your application so it can respond to user demand. It can scale it down all the way to zero resource consumption, making it a great option for experimenting and prototyping when building a minimum viable product. Now, let's move on to this. Okay, welcome to Cloud IDE. Okay, gather the tools and materials for your web app. Okay, as we can see here we have the we need to create another folder. Okay, left panel. This picture. Let's focus on this picture. The left panel where the instructions are displayed as seen in the sample. Okay, create a hello world plus application. Uh, right panel, we can practice programming in this panel. This one here. Then Explorer project similar to Visual Studio Code. No, we can create, access, and edit our files with the Explorer project. Then terminal. The terminal is where we can put commands. Example, install required Python packages or run app. It can be accessed through terminal and new terminal. Skills network toolbox. This toolbox allows to launch what we need in the cloud IDE environment. No? Okay. Number one, we need to log into GitHub using the following link. Then a fork will make a copy of the repository. With the copy, we can freely make changes without those changes affecting the original repository. Once we've completed forking the repository, keep the tab open and head on over to step number 2. Then after this one, let's move on to this one. In the next Instagram Pinterest repository under our account, let's click the green code button. We can see several options to clone our repository. Let's select the default one. It's the HTTPS and click the clipboard icon to copy the link to our clipboard. Next is Cloud ID. Pull up the terminal. We can do that by navigating terminal. Then new terminal. Uh, Next one is we need to configure GitHub settings. No, this information will appear in our commit history, which can be found under the Git log. This is all done in the terminal. Now we can start our name. This will be the necessary username. Okay, we need to execute this git config and replace your name with your name. It's up to you. What's your name? Uh, we do not need to enter our personal information here. It's up to you what name you want to enter to replace the name in this your name button. Okay. Now let's see your email. Let's see the email. Then we execute this code git config global user email. Then in the terminal, we need to type the following git clone URL next Instagram Pinterest. Then replace the entirely of URL with the link of copied. No? Leave the trailing next Instagram Pinterest as we want to clone the repo with the specific folder name. When repository is cloned successfully, we can skip to end the method number 2. Okay. Now, okay. In the method 2, we just need to clone the files that we have provided in our repository by entering the following command in the terminal. We can do this by opening a terminal through terminal, then click new terminal and running the git clone along with the repository link we would like. Then we need to copy this link, the HTTPS GitHub. Then we also need to click this, we call this greater than sign underscore in the code block below to save yourself some typing. Then we need to execute this git clone https github.com. Then regardless of the method, we clone the repository, a copy of the files will be placed in the Explorer. Our tab should look similar to the screenshot below. So, ito. Dapat ganito siya. Pag nagawa na natin to, na-enter na natin tong mga to, dapat ganito yung lalabas sa Explorer tab natin. Then, let's change the directory so we are in the correct one. No? We can do that with the simple command in the terminal by just executing this cd next Instagram Pinterest. Okay. This one. Then after that, our terminal will be like this. Okay, the output will be like this. in our terminal. Then let's try this one, no? Uh, okay, T minus 10 to your web app launch. Okay, we just need to again uh, encode this one. We will be opening a terminal window, no, by executing this cd next Instagram Pinterest. Then we will be running Docker build, which will read our Docker file and run each line. We can find more details about it in this link. Okay. Then the build button will read the Docker file and run each line in order. Each line is called a layer, and all the lines layers or layers make up a Docker image. The period at the end simply means we will build everything in the current directory. Finally, the minus T argument followed by next Instagram Pinterest image sets the tag name of the image you are building. Then we need to execute the Docker build. Then after executing the Docker build, we will having this one. Now, okay, the command from on the first line specifies the base image we will building our app upon. Our case contains everything we need, including the WSGI Flash packages meant for Python 3.8. Then the copy on the second line specifies what file or folder we would like to put in our Docker container. In this case, it's just the Python package, requirements.txt file, and we want to copy it to the app folder in our image. Then the run command on the third line will run a command in the terminal within the container. In this case, it is installing all the required packages from app requirements.txt that we just put inside, okay? The command copy on the fourth line will copy the period, which mean everything from the folder into the Docker image. No? This includes the app.py, uh, app.py file, the website templates, and everything else we need to make the site work. Okay. Then the expose on the fifth line tells the Docker that the application within the Docker image will be informed Docker that the container listens on the specified network ports at a runtime. This is the more for the creator document which port are exposed in the image so others who run the container will know. The CMD command on the last line is the command the container executes by default when we launch the build image. So in the next step, we use the Docker run. This line is the default line that is run. Next is to launch the app. We need to enter the following command into the terminal. Uh, the Docker run, the -d command, the minus P command. The 8080 this one, also these two 8080 command line. Okay, then we need to, after that we need to execute the docker run minus d minus p 8080 colon 8080 next Instagram, Pinterest. Then we also need to run the app.py file with the Python. Then after we run that, dapat yung terminal natin is ganito. Ganito yung lalabas sa ating terminal. So now that our app is running, we can see how it looks by navigating to the Skills Network toolbox. Then after we run our application, no, or we launch the application, let's try to choose and upload files. No? We can choose to launch the application either through your application or the pop-out button next to it. The former will launch the application in the same tab in a smaller window, and the latter will open a new tab with the page. You can choose whichever you feel more comfortable with, or even try both. Okay. Then the Docker Compose. We might notice that there is a Docker Compose.yml in our repository. No? We need to stop running the image we ran above the first line. So we need to execute this docker stop. This one, you can see this one, this docker. Then uh, it allows to build, run, and run our application in one line. Docker Compose app will build, recreate, start, and attach containers for service. In our case, we only have one Docker container to focus on. So we need to, after we execute the Docker stop, we next thing we do is to uh, execute the Docker Compose app. This one. Okay, now let's check what IBM Cloud account or what IBM Cloud account type is our account. No? We can do this by navigating to IBM Cloud account settings. Then, as seen in the screenshot below, we can check our account type under the account type. Then it says like, in order to use code engine, we'll need to upgrade it to pay as you go account. Okay. Uh, but if we have already a pay as you go account, feel free to skip the task B. Okay. Then under the account upgrade, select add credit card. Then when the following screen appears, select personal under account information. Once you finish, you'll be brought to a summary screen. Now, if you check your account settings, you'll see that your account type has changed to a pay as you go pending. Once your account has been approved, your account type will change to pay as you go, as you seen below. This one. Pending and go. Now let's move on to the next. To access the code engine, we need to log into IBM Cloud and use the following link. No? Code engine. Okay. Uh, under start, uh, under start with source code, paste the URL to your GitHub repository, and we can find this URL by copying and pasting the URL in the address bar of our GitHub repository. No? If we don't have a GitHub account, we can use the following URL. This one is https github.com slash IBM developer skills. Then we will be having this one. Next, enter name for your app. Then please note that the app name must consist of lowercase letter, numeric characters, uh, and must start and end with a letter or numeric character. For this example, we'll use the name next Instagram Pinterest. Okay, this sample picture. Okay, let's move on to next. Under select a project, click create project. For location, select a location that is closest to you. Example, for Toronto, that would be Toronto Cator. Then name your project and keep the default resource group. If you receive an error when creating the project, then please return to the previous page and ensure that your account is a pay-as-you-go account. No? Then next, we'll specify build details under choose the code run. Next is under strategy. Be sure to select the Docker file. No? Recall that we have this file in the code engine to read more from the set the timeout to 20 minutes and select the extra large. Uh, for this app, we'll be using the largest field size due to an uh, ephemeral storage issue. That is storage that is temporary storage. Next, once more, bringing us to the output details. Leave all entries as is and add a tag. Uh, latest to denote the latest version of your app. Then listening port override optional to 8080. Then if we remember, this was the port we used when launching our app with the Skills Network toolbox. Then under the runtime settings, we will see a number of instances or instance resources. For instance resources, set the CPU and memory to 1B CPU slash 4 GB. Okay, we will keep the minimum number of resources at 0. While it means that our app will potentially be slow if it isn't access open, it also means that we'll only be charged when someone is accessing our application. With all the variables set up, let's create this app by clicking the create. After clicking the create, we should receive confirmation on the side of our screen. Soon we'll be brought to the configuration page. This one. Okay, as we can see, the image is currently being built. After the image is built, it will take some time before it deploys. During that time, we may see no revisions ready. Not to worry, after a few minutes, we should see that uh, it's deploying. Okay. In total, this process may take about 20 to 25 minutes. So we can take a break and go for some Yossi break. Once our project is done, leading you, loading, we can see that it says ready. Then click test application and then open application URL to be brought to our app. And there we have it, a web app that we can share with the world. Okay, that is for a deploy a computer vision app in a serverless environment.